With the demonic blade, he must have lost to the bearer of the Drandark, which means he either lost a duel or was betrayed. Remembering the expression he made towards the holy sword, she's sure he was betrayed. She says if he's back and preparing for revenge, he better remember one thing. If she finds him lazy or weak for a second, she'll devour him on the spot. Shen punches her and tells her to shut up because he's the master. The poor thing falls to the ground all bruised, while he smiles, thinking she really has the same personality as before. He then leaves the tent and looking to the side, he realizes everything is chaotic. Amelia calls for him and he asks if something happened. Scared, she says today they found the body of a demonic beast at the entrance to the valley. Shen hesitates, afraid they found the body of the deathworm. Amelia warns it's been a long time since they found such a high-level beast near the borders. Shen asks if there's anything else to say, and she gets scared. He asked again, did anyone say anything about me, any rumors? Suddenly, a knight appears behind, calling his name. It's Yulkin, who says the Duke wants to talk. Shen knows he's in trouble because yesterday when he was hunting, his father's group suddenly appeared. He had to abandon the Hellhound's bodies without being able to clean anything. All he didn't want was to attract attention before entering the academy, and so he presents himself in his father's tent. Sure, his father already knows everything. His father greets him while Shen hesitates about what he'll say. Wallace tells him to sit, and Shen frowns, wondering how he'll get out of this now. His father says he'll be direct and asks what he was doing last night. Sweating, Shen lies, saying he went to bed early. Wallace seems to believe it for a second, but finds it very strange since the cut on the wolf was very similar to his blade. Is he jumping to conclusions by thinking that? Shen asks if something is wrong, while Wallace finds it unbelievable that a young boy has done something like that. Shen calls his father again, who asks if he heard about what happened last night, and he warns that they still need to investigate, but it seems to be something from the Mist organization. Hesitant, Shen asks, Mist. His father explains that it's an organization that has existed since ancient times, and they don't know its goal. But they have massacred countless nobles under the pretext of purification. Only that suddenly they disappeared. The last time they were seen was 300 years ago, but the same mist was present at the Deathworm, and that residue of power is only left by those who venerate the god of the mist. In his speculation, whoever killed the worm belongs to the mist. Shan is impressed that he managed to track down an organization that disappeared 300 years ago with just that. Wallace says he doesn't know why they disappeared, but he tells him to be cautious and he will report it to the Empire. Our protagonist is relieved. It seems he will be able to escape suspicion. While his father thinks it doesn't make sense to connect such a young boy to all this, and he tells him that the discussion is over. And then he asks if he'd heard about the visit coming today. Cheyenne says he heard it was someone from the royalty. His father approaches, saying yes, and then he wants to ask him for a little favor. Sweating, Cheyenne is curious about this favor. A knight sounds a signal announcing the arrival of your majesty. Wallace and everyone on the battlefield bow and welcome the Emperor. The Emperor, who looks like a pale vampire, says hi to Wallace. He approaches him and says they are old friends, no need to be formal. Then he asks if the boy next to him is his son. Cheyenne introduces himself and says he's the youngest of the Vert family. The Emperor tells Wallace it's amazing to see that his son is on the front line. Really, his kids are extraordinary. The favor the father asked Cheyenne for was to introduce himself as his son, because in his past life he always stayed hidden and nobody even knew he existed. The Emperor then says it was the perfect time for him to introduce himself as well. A shoe descends from the carriage and she introduces herself as Erin Sevelris, the 5th princess of the Empire. Cheyenne remembers that she was known as the Unlucky Princess. One of the favors his father asked for was to escort the girl. He was confused because he wasn't very strong and wanted to know why his father asked for that. His father explained that it was just for him to keep her company since they would be entering the same academy and are the same age. Cheyenne remembers that in his past life he saw her at the academy while changing classes a few times. Wallace explained that it's always good to know someone from the royal family, and even though she won't be staying here for long, it's a good opportunity. Our protagonist thought he wasn't very interested, but he understood his father's intentions. He wanted him to have a relationship with her like his father has with the Emperor. However, Cheyenne says that his father chose the wrong person since that girl wouldn't serve his purpose. He sighs, saying he can't reveal the reason since only he knows the future. As inconvenient as it may be, for now he will have to follow these requests. As they walked with the troops, Erin asked why the lake was red. Cheyenne explained that it was the Blood Lake and there was no special reason for that color. The injured creatures jump into it to recover mana, and because of that, it has that color. Erin asks if it's red, then why are there a lot of monster remains, and Cheyenne says that's basically it. She then asks what's at the end of it. Cheyenne says there's a demon kingdom there, and she wants to know if there's a demon king there. Our boy warns that if the lake continues, she will find the king in flesh and bone. He's teasing her for asking such a silly question. Suddenly, they see a flash of light. A yellow smoke cuts through the sky, and Erin asks what that is. Cheyenne says a golden light means the entry of demonic creatures. She gets scared, asking if they've already arrived, while Wallace orders everyone to protect the majesty and that they are going to the 3rd outpost. The Emperor says he's disappointed, and Wallace asks what he means by that. The Pale One then draws his sword and says he's not here just for a visit, it's because he was already bored and missing the battle. Wallace lowers his head, saying he understands, and the Emperor tells his group that they will assist the eradication team in getting rid of the creatures. Wallace calls Shan to go too, who responds immediately. Erin is confused and asks if he's really going to fight against the creatures. He says yes, he's here in the background, but he always fights on the front line. She says she wants to go with him too. He questions what she's doing, while she says they're the same age, so there's no problem. But Shine warns that the battlefield is not a playground. But she's insistent, saying it doesn't matter, she wants to go. He then calls Yulkin, who appears behind her and says he'll take her to the safest area possible. She turns around and Yulkin says, "Come with me, princess." Yelling at Cyan, she says he's insolent and for treating a princess of the Empire like that. Approaching, he warns that her dilly-dallying here will cause a lot of people to die on the front line. Would she take responsibility for that? She starts crying, after all, she's just a child. He then turns away and tells her to leave soon and stop being a spoiled brat. The three remain silent. In the battlefield, the soldiers are being absorbed by what seems like demonic slugs. Wallace raises his sword and tells them to return to formation. He points in the direction and says they should protect the Majesty and kill all those creatures. With a war cry, the soldiers enter the battle. Dion Severos had two wives, one named Anna, who had already died, and another known as Cassandra, who was the current ruler of the Empire. The first wife bore two, and the second two more. But the fifth princess was born from a peasant woman, so everyone looked down on her. Still, she did not submit to anyone. As a descendant of the imperial family, she fulfilled all her obligations and studied more than anyone else. However, many were against her. With false accusations, they expelled her from the imperial palace and she was taken to an isolated place, thus receiving the title of Unlucky Princess. Karam asks if that's what he heard from his father in his past life. Shannon says when it comes to politics and reign, things are like that, while the electric slugs are being cut on the battlefield. Watching from afar the explosions, he recognizes that the Emperor is really amazing. He plants the sword in the ground and activates a sacred ray, easily defeating all the slugs around him. Shine heard that this guy's magic reaches 8 stars. If he hadn't become Emperor, he would be the president of the Magic Council. Obviously, these medium creatures are nothing to him. A while later, Wallace and the Emperor are drinking together, talking about the old times. The Emperor talks about the current state of the Empire.